Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. After closed-door meetings last week, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith are expected to sign an agreement on the future of Alberta's energy this week, and BC could play a role. We'll speak with BC's Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions about why our province was left out of the talks and how we can make sure our voice is heard in Ottawa. And ahead of our Make the Season Kind event next week, we want to hear your stories of kindness and how someone made a big difference in your life. I'm Amy Bell in for Michelle Elliott. This is BC Today. And thank you for joining us here on radio, TV, and live stream. You can call us now on our top story. How should BC approach these negotiations with other provinces? Our number is 604-669-3733. You can also call 1-800-825-5950 or hit pound 690. You can also email us bctoday@cbc.ca. And tensions are running high this week between BC and both Ottawa and Alberta. We learned last week that Prime Minister Mark Carney, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith, and Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe had been holding closed-door talks about a possible new oil pipeline to BC's North Coast. At the center of it all is a potentially game-changing memorandum of understanding between the federal and Alberta governments, one that could allow for tanker traffic on the North Coast and could be signed as early as this week. So why was BC seemingly left out of the room? How should BC approach these negotiations? And what should the NDP government do to protect its interest? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can go 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And yes, you can email bctoday@cbc.ca. You can also leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Now, to help unpack the implications, we're joined by the Honourable Adrian Dix, British Columbia's Minister of Energy and Climate Solutions. Good afternoon, Minister. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon.
So what was your reaction to hearing about the negotiations between Prime Minister Carney and Premier Smith? We know our Premier, David Eby, said he was blindsided by this, but what about you?
Well, it emerged in an article in the Globe and Mail newspaper last Wednesday. It refers to talks that are between apparently Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Canada. And there may be other issues in those talks. We'll see. But as far as the talk, it did specifically refer to discussion on the tanker ban on the BC coast and the Canadian coast, of course. And the point I make to everybody is, can you imagine the reaction of Alberta if there were negotiations kept secret from them about something fundamental on their territory? If those negotiations took place between, say, BC, Manitoba, New Brunswick, and Canada, it would be, I think, they would react very negatively to that. And of course, we have as well. The important question, though, is the tanker ban itself, which is critical to BC's economy. There is a flourishing economy on the North Coast. It's an important economy. We have tens of billions of dollars in projects right now on the North Coast that are supported, as the coastal First Nations have said, and others, by the existence of the tanker ban on oil tankers. All of those projects, from LNG to mining projects to the Port of Prince Rupert, really are essential to British Columbia, essential to Canada, and really depend on that. So the real question is the tanker ban on the coast, which has been in place now for decades, both a voluntary ban and now a legislative ban, and really it's essential to all of our work in building and leading Canada's economy and building BC's economy.
As expected, we do have a lot of calls that are coming in, Minister, so I'd like to head to the phone lines. Right now, we're going to hear from James. And James, you're actually in Calgary. Hi, James.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, as a guy who worked in the oil patch for over 20 years, I don't think this oil pipeline should be built. And I think the NDP government in BC has to use the mother of all political tools and do what Alberta and Quebec often do, threaten separation when they don't get what they want. This will certainly create an economic environment that investors will not like, and they'll be less likely to invest in such a pipeline. There are many alternatives for Alberta other than building this pipeline. And if you want to build Canada strong, you have to refine the oil in order to get 3 times the amount of profits out of the oil. Shipping raw oil abroad only creates 3 times the wealth abroad. And we need to keep that wealth in Canada. And we got to start building micro refineries in Canada, across Canada. And let's look at building the pipeline eastward. Maybe Ontario would love it, and they can put tankers on the Great Lakes and ship the oil wherever they want to.
All right.
Go on for a long time, but I'll leave it there.
Well, thank you very much for that, James. And Minister, how would you respond to his statements there?
Well, it's important to remember that this proposal has no proponent, no route, no plan. It requires contracts. People have to want to pay the enormous cost of this pipeline when they get access to it, which they will not. We just built a pipeline from Alberta through BC. The number of the oil traveling through BC increased by 300% a couple of years ago as a result. That pipeline is not full yet. It's about 80 to 87% full, depending on the month. And we could significantly expand the capacity of that pipeline. You know, the one we paid $34 billion in public money for. So I think there's a strong case, an economic case about the pipeline. And we haven't been unreasonable. We've been talking to Alberta about their access issues and the importance of those issues and offering alternatives. But this proposal doesn't make any sense. It's divisive. It won't pay for itself. It would require a massive public subsidy, as James suggests. And obviously, we don't support the lifting of the tanker ban on the North Coast.
You were once a very vocal opponent of the Trans Mountain expansion, arguing that it, proposed unacceptable environmental risks. Some point to that strong opposition as perhaps a major factor in losing the provincial leadership race in 2013. You've expressed support for increasing capacity of that pipeline now. So what has changed? Your assessment of the risks, the evidence, or is it politics?
Neither. The pipeline got built. Right? As you know, I didn't win the 2013 election, and we built the pipeline, and we own it, and we're paying for it. And the federal government is trying to sell it, and they can't sell it. So I think it would be pretty silly. I think most people would agree to keep talking about a 2013 issue when the pipeline that we were discussing then has actually been built. We should live in reality and represent people in reality, and that's what I'm doing.
We have a few more calls. I'd like to bring in Wayne now in Victoria. Hi, Wayne.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going well.
So quickly, my background is engineering. Most of my buddies out of the University of Manitoba ended up in the oil patch. I didn't. I went into manufacturing, and then I traveled the world in the environmental industry. So one of the things I would sort of agree with this gentleman is we should be refining the oil. We've been giving it away mostly to the Americans who have been making the lion's share of it. So that's that. But I'm totally against the pipeline, any pipelines, and I'm basically against fossil fuel because it's a thing of the past. And these are big long-term investments. So if we just have one tanker spill on the west coast of BC, we will have another Exxon Valdez, which is basically still feeling the effect of it. But the reality is, ladies and gentlemen, is climate change, which is Mother Nature, she does not know any boundaries. She does not know any politics. And she's going to keep the heat going right up until we finally come to our senses. There's huge amount of potential and possibilities in the alternative industry, but we got to turn the corner first before we even see that. So that's the future. Oil is not the future.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Wayne, have a good afternoon. And Minister Dix, how do we sort of balance that need economically for our province while also being very environmentally conscious? It can be difficult, especially in current, economic climates.
Well, BC doesn't have a major oil industry. We don't make gasoline for our cars, but we do have a significant natural gas industry, which people know. That's very significant in our province. And how you do that, I think, is the kind of thing we've done under the Clean BC plan, a 51% reduction in emissions from oil and gas in BC since 2015 because of measures we've taken, and because the industry, to its great credit, has implemented those measures and implemented technological change that's reduced emissions. We're electrifying new LNG plants in BC because they are proceeding. That's the rule. And you see Cedar LNG, which is led by the Haisla First Nation and others, is electrified, meaning it will be the lowest emission LNG in the world. Not a perfect solution for your previous caller, I don't think, but it demonstrates all of the measures we're taking around Clean BC are in our economic and environmental interests. And finally, BC is renowned for its clean power. BC Hydro has led the way in clean power for multiple generations, and it continues to do that. And we're seeing the largest increase in the development of clean power that we've seen really since the 1960s in BC right now. So you want alternatives, you need alternatives in terms of energy production, you need more clean electricity, and we're building it. And the good news is that electricity is coming down in price, which is good for everybody.
I've got a couple of emails that have come in, and read one of them in part from Anne Grant. She says, yes, I have a question as to why the BC government and the Canadian government are even considering any new fossil fuel projects at the time of climate crisis. And yes, LNG is a fossil fuel, and we have been told by the majority of climate scientists worldwide for years that we must have no new fossil fuel projects if we want to control the climate crisis, period. But I think I know the answer. It's our economic system which requires we grow the economy in order to live. We are stuck in this belief instead of considering an economy which provides what all people need, not one that is constantly looking for ways to grow the economy. We live in this system which results in some people getting hugely rich while the majority are just getting by, and the gap between rich and poor is getting larger and larger. We need to change this unfair and destructive system. Thank you so much for that, Anne. We'll take in a couple more calls, and of course, if you want to join the conversation, you can call us at 1-800-825-5950. You can also call 604-669-3733. We're speaking with Minister Adrian Dix. He's going to take some calls about the rumors surrounding a proposed pipeline between BC and Alberta. LJ from Vancouver, you're on with BC Today. How are you?
Hi, thank you very much. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. What is your question?
Okay, my question is involving perhaps somebody misspoke. They said that by next week we would hear something about this proposal. And how is that possible? How within a week can the consultations take place?
No. I will clarify that. It's by this Thursday that it is rumored that they would sign that memorandum. Yes. Yeah. So no consultations have obviously come through yet. But thank you for that, LG. And
I do have a comment if I could make it quickly. I lived on the North Coast for several years, and there is no way that I can believe the Angus Reid results on that poll, because my impression of this province's attitude to this tar sands oil is extremely negative, and we have this production going at production way, and it looks all very neat and tidy, and it's running, below its capacity, and it's going to be a huge stranded asset. We don't need another one. So thank you for taking my call.
No, thank you so much for calling in. And the poll, the Angus Reid poll that she is referring to, I believe, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it said 40% of British Columbians would be in support of a pipeline. Minister Dix, what are your thoughts on that stat?
Well, just on LG's question about timing, there is no proposal, right? So Alberta won't actually have something to submit to the Major Projects Office at the earliest before, I think, next June. They're spending $14 million on a communications plan, but not a substantive one. You'll remember the Northern Gateway project, which spent in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and the project didn't go ahead. So right. I think from that point of view, we're a distance away from it, basically because there's not, unlike BC's proposals, which have been approved at the Major Projects Office and led the country in that, this isn't a serious or real project at this point. So it will be a while. With respect to polling, I think it depends on whether you ask the question. I think if people said, should we spend tens of billions of dollars subsidizing this project, which doesn't make economic sense, or rather spend that money, say, in another area, such as, I don't know, healthcare. I think most people would be approving healthcare. So it depends on how you ask the question. I don't think we've heard about the proposal, so people are really responding to a theoretical proposal. But I would say this, that people in British Columbia strongly believe that we've got to increase our sovereignty right now and diversify our markets. And that's what we're doing in mining, with clean electricity itself, and with the lowest emission LNG in the world. And I know not everyone agrees with that, but I think most people in BC think we've got to create more independence from the United States by diversifying our markets and building a stronger economy. And that's what David Eby's been talking about, Premier Eby's been talking about, us leading economic growth in Canada.
Well, and as I will just mention, we do have the Angus Reid poll. It says BC support significantly outweighs opposition, 56% to 33%. But again, I don't know how the question was posed, as you pointed out. But do you feel that Ottawa does recognize that BC is one of Canada's fastest growing provinces and recognizes BC's economic importance when it comes to making national decisions about pipelines and energy corridors?
Well, so far, certainly, yes. The North Coast Transmission Line, a critical piece of electricity, clean energy infrastructure, as the support of the federal government. They've indicated that, and we're working with them on how they'll be able to show their support and make the project go further. Our other programs, we have 3 other major projects announced by the government of Canada that are in British Columbia. That's more by far than any other province, and the majority, if you consider the value of those projects. And it shows the strength of private sector projects and the work we've done. On NCTL, there's been years of work done with First Nations and with communities on that project. And we expect to have shovels in the ground in 2026. That's how you do a project. It's not releasing press releases and MOUs that get you to a project. The project has to make sense. It has to be economic, and it has to be acceptable to Canadians.
And you know, there were some thoughts that with BC getting these nation building projects, that was somehow a way to sort of sweeten the possibility of a BC Alberta pipeline. Do you think that there was some political forethought in handing out those original projects to BC?
No, quite the contrary. Those projects are real projects. They're just before FID stage in the case of a couple, which is final investment decision stage. They've been going through all of those projects, or the 3 major ones we're talking about that are energy projects, have all received environmental assessment certificates in BC. They're substantive projects with real investment, and they're going forward, and that's why they appeared on the list. This project, in contrast, as I noted, no proponent, no plan, no route, no possibility of paying for itself. It's going to be massively publicly subsidized. It's a political effort, and hugely in Alberta, I think, to maintain unity on the political right in Alberta. Well, that may be important to the political right in Alberta, but it's not an issue of national unity.
A couple more calls before we let you go, Minister. From David in Vancouver.
Hello. Just a couple of comments. First, on the business case for the pipeline. I don't think there's anything there that's a pipeline to nowhere. If you look at the forecast from the International Energy Agency, oil is going to be peaking sooner than the bullish forecasts that come from other places like OPEC and the oil companies. The second point is that the existing pipelines, if there's a increase in oil demand for a short period, the existing pipelines, the capacity can be increased. If Alberta wants more power projects, then they should start looking at more sun and solar. Solar and wind. And wind. They're the cheapest available ways to generate electricity now. And, talking to leaders in the mining industry in British Columbia at a conference recently, they don't open a mine in British Columbia unless it has an electrical power source, because it's the cheapest way to power the mine. There's economic benefit that can come from renewables. We don't need more oil.
All right. Thank you very much for that, David. And Minister, how would you respond to David's points there?
Well, I think David's right. There is, on the existing system, the TMX system, significant increased capacity possible. We don't need to build a big pipeline to do that. We can do it for a fraction of the cost that the pipeline that's being suggested or put in press releases suggested is. Secondly, there's capacity on other pipelines to do the same thing. There's $1.1 million barrels a day of potential capacity that would be at relatively low cost compared to a pipeline that would cost tens and tens of billions of dollars. Alberta does do, by the way, a lot of renewable energy in wind power, to their credit. Some of the best wind power in Canada is in Alberta, and they've done so. Although in recent years they've put in restrictions on their ability to do that. They've taken action against solar and wind at concurrent, I guess, with the action being taken by President Donald Trump in the same way. The problem with that is that the costs of solar and wind are coming down, and it's growing all over the world, everywhere else but North America. And even in the United States, states like Texas and Iowa, and states that we sometimes call Republican state or red states, those states are leading in the development of renewable energy because it makes sense.
Minister, I believe we're going to have to leave it there for time. I really appreciate you staying with us for the full half hour.
Great to be on the show. Listen to it regularly.
Well,
so it's
that's
good to be on the
hear.
show.
All right. Take care. That is Adrian Dix, BC Minister of Climate and Energy. And just before, I do want to get to a couple of emails, or at least one. It says, grow the economy to raise funds for social programs, sell resources to raise royalties and revenue for healthcare and education and social programs. Hospitals and emergency care rates dead last in the G20, and the Americans send a tanker a day down to the west coast, only 50 to 80 kilometers off the coast of Haida Gwaii. No chance you will stop the tankers from Valdez to Washington. Thank you so much for that. It is 12:27, and this is BC Today. And we do have time for one more call, as we have been talking once again about the pipelines. We'll talk to Tracy in Vancouver. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, and what are your thoughts on the pipeline today?
Just a quick alternative that might please Alberta, but also provide electric energy to the continent at least. Why not generate electricity near the source of the oil in clean electric generators that have sophisticated carbon capture, and then ship the electrical energy around the continent on electrical lines?
All right. Thank you so much for that, Trace. One more call from Carrie Francis. Hi, Carrie.
Hi. What about lifting the moratorium on nuclear energy? Why don't we just generate nuclear power at the source from clean nuclear power, because we've got the technology to do it.
All right. Thank you very much for that. Ira in Hazelton, what are your thoughts on today's topic? Hi, Ira. Are you with us? Oh, it looks like we have lost Ira, but thank you to everybody that did call in and email on the subject today. You are listening to BC Today on CBC. We're on Radio 1, CBC Television, and we're live streaming on our website, cbc.ca/BC, YouTube at CBC Vancouver, and on the CBC News app. And we're coming up to 12:30. Now, in our second half of the show, we're going to be talking about our Make the Season Kind event that is happening next Friday, December the 5th. And we're asking for you to share your stories of kindness, how it's touched your life, and what kindness means to you. So get your calls and your emails in. But first, it is time for the CBC News to 12:30.
Good afternoon. Police say the Trans-Canada Highway is closed after a serious crash north of Lytton this morning. According to Mounties, 2 trucks collided just before 9, leaving the occupants with serious injuries. They say the highway will be closed while investigators work the scene, and drivers should find an alternative route and check Drive BC for more information. And police and conservation officers continue to hunt for a female grizzly bear and its 2 cubs on BC's Central Coast. 3 school children and one of their teachers was sent to hospital after a bear attack Thursday, which authorities believe the sow and her cubs likely carried out. The school group had been on a picnic lunch near Bella Coola when it happened. And Environment Canada has issued a snowfall warning for the Elk Valley in the East Kootenay region. The Weather Service predicts people in the Fernie area will see the most snowfall, with about 20 centimeters blanketing the ground, before tapering off tonight. Drivers are warned to allow for extra travel time, given the likely challenging road conditions. And those are your latest CBC News headlines from Vancouver.
And thank you so much for that, Liam. Now, Canada is currently trying to meet an ambitious environmental conservation goal. It wants to protect 30% of its lands and waters by 2030. It's to safeguard biodiversity and mitigate climate change. BC Nature says every bit of protected land in the province is needed, including urban centres. By participating in the federal program, BC municipalities say they're making efforts to contribute to the 30 by 30 goal. Andrew Banks is the spokesperson for BC Nature.
What we're finding through our project is that we're doing a really great job of promoting the importance of the 30 by 30 commitment, the importance of biodiversity, and also the importance of biodiversity in your urban centre, in where you live. And these are all really great goals that we are looking to achieve, and we're very excited about this project. Through the 30 by 30 commitment, we have worked with Metro Vancouver Regional Parks, and they've registered this land in this database. And again, it's acknowledging the importance of biodiversity, the importance of protecting biodiversity within urban centres. And that's why Metro Vancouver Parks are so proud and pleased to have registered these lands in the database.
Every year, CBC British Columbia sets up a fundraiser in support of food banks. The fundraiser is called Make the Season Kind, and it is a very exciting day of special province-wide programming, all designed to support the 111 food banks across the province. You can make a donation right now at cbc.ca/kindbc or text KIND to 22222. And leading up to the fundraiser, we're hearing stories from British Columbians about how their lives were impacted by food banks. Have a listen to Toe and how food banks helped him persevere through major life changes.
My name is Toe, T-H-O. Why? Well, something, it helps, something that I need. So that's why I'm here every week. I'm retired now, and and I was a kidney transplant patient. Oh, I am going to have another surgery on Friday. Yeah, the second one. Something, a tumor, little tumor beside my stomach. Need to take care of it. Just a piece of cake. Today, I don't know what they're going to give it to me. Mostly onion, potato, tomato. Sometimes have some kind of a vegetable, or you might have a bag of rice and cheese. Sometimes, they may have some milk. Yeah, a lot of things. The food's still good, nothing wrong with it, so try and give it away. There's people need, so they come and get it. But a lot of people put work on it, right? Yeah, volunteer and a lot. All those big trucks, bring the food here. Yeah, and then all of us could have some of it. Yeah, it's really nice thing. Really nice thing. If people give, it's kind, right? Always, anything that if you could give it away, is a kind thing to do.
And our thanks to Toe for sharing his story. And we want to know, when did someone show you kindness? And what does kindness mean to you? Call us now. Just hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or you can call 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. And you can also email bctoday@cbc.ca and leave a comment on our TikTok Live. Now, joining us now is Anne Penman. She is a producer here at CBC, and she is responsible for Make the Season Kind. She is the heart and soul of this whole operation. And thank you so much for coming on with us today.
It's a pleasure, Amy.
So why don't you just tell us about the origins of BC's food bank, Make the Season Kind, because it has undergone a bit of a change over the years.
Yeah, lots of change, certainly over 38 years,
Can you
I might
believe
add. I can't believe it. It started just after Expo 86, and I think there's a tension from around the country and around the world on Vancouver. And I think there started to be some cracks in our social structure. The cost of housing in particular rose exponentially, and people were finding it just difficult to make ends meet. So the first year that that was the circumstances, we decided, I was just started producing the afternoon show here with Patrick Monroe, and very different Vancouver back then. And we decided to have just one our 2-hour show at the time to be a fundraiser for food banks. So we did it from our little cafeteria. We had a musician and we had a comedian as our guests, and we asked people to make donations to the Greater Vancouver Food Bank. And a lot of people just drove up on the front plaza of the CBC in downtown Vancouver and just left cans of food on the stairway. We got $462 that year. That was the total of the donations, and a bunch of cans of food that I just after work, or I think the next morning, I drove over to the food bank, Greater Vancouver Food Bank. But you start it there at 462, and to this day, and now we're a province-wide event, we've raised over $24 million for food banks.
It's incredible how each year, we build on it. It gets bigger and bigger. And every year I am just struck by that spirit that people had. We've held this fundraiser through the pandemic when we weren't sure if people were still going to be as generous. And yet time and time again, people just take care of others at this time of year. What do you think that says about the people in BC?
Well, I think it says a whole lot, and I think it says a whole lot about the CBC audience. Just the kind of generosity. We never set a goal. They are pretty fantastic. We never set a goal. We don't sort of say, "Hey, come on, let's get over 1 million," and then we just it's organic. It's what you can contribute. I spend my days, my food bank days now in the phone room, and it's so lovely to talk to people and hear why they're donating. And donations can be $20, or they can be like $8,000. A couple of times each year we get $5,000 donations or $10,000. It's just whatever people can give.
Well, and every little bit counts. And I think we've always let people know that anything makes a difference.
Yeah, there's no question about that. Yeah.
And we've seen this big focus on kindness. And we want to make the season kind. And, referencing the pandemic again, when we were sort of told by Dr. Henry to, go forward with kindness. What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness is it's a good question. I think it's very personal, first of all. And I think also it's kindness is things that you do or think that are quiet, like that you're not doing it for any kind of recognition or any kind of thanks or feedback. It's just something that you hope nourishes another person or people, and you get the payback that it almost always nourishes you. That's not the primary reason for doing it, of course.
But it's a nice benefit.
Yeah, it's a really nice benefit.
It is. We do want to hear your stories of kindness. What does it mean to you, and how has an act of kindness maybe impacted your life? You can call us here at 1-800-866-5950. You can also call us at 604-662-3733. We've got Georgia on the line from Nanaimo. Hi, Georgia. Hi, Georgia. Are you on the line? Oh, looks like we've lost Georgia, but that's okay. I'll just continue with you, Anne. How important is kindness, I suppose, to the people that go to the food banks?
You know what? I I've asked everybody this year, for the first time, I've asked everybody about kindness and what it means to them and how they practice kindness in their own lives. And to answer your question, I think that people who go to the food banks, kindness means exactly the same thing as it means to everybody else. It's universal. One man said to me that to be kind, you first have to have humility. I learned a lot about kindness from talking to people. Here's a woman named Abadaki, one of the clients who I spoke to.
Kindness means being helpful, non-judgmental. Be kind to people, because when you're kind to people, it comes back to you, directly or indirectly. Everybody wants to be loved. Everybody wants people to be kind and respectful to them. So when you do this to other people, it comes back to you in multiple folds. So that's my mantra. Kindness makes the world go round, regardless of your race, regardless of your nationality, regardless of religion. Be kind to everyone.
I want to put that on a T-shirt. Kindness make the world go round.
Exactly. You could hear the delight in her voice as well.
Yeah, you could, and just how much that meant to her. And we did, of course, hear about Toe at the beginning of this segment. But tell me about some of the people that you've met sort of as you are anticipating and building up to make the season kind. You've spoken to a lot of them at different food banks.
Yes, a lot of clients, that's for sure. I have a couple that stand out. Andy talked about people that he knows. He's a senior. He had to go to a food bank after he cared for his wife for 25 years prior to her dying. He has a child, an adult child who he cares for now. And he talked about how people that he knows in his community travel long ways to go to food banks because they don't want anybody that they know to know that they're at a food bank. It's that stigma is definitely still there for some people at food banks. It's certainly changed in a positive way. The food banks do a very good job. I talked to a woman named Livia. She's from Brazil. She has 2 kids. Came here a year ago. Her husband works full time, but they can't afford daycare, so she can't. The cost of daycare is more than she could make doing a job. Right. The kicker is when I asked her what kind of job she does, and she said, "Oh, well, I'm a physician."
Wow.
And she needs to. She told me, she said, "I need to work on my English, and then I need to do 2 years of accreditation education before she can practice here." That stood out for me as well. And a single mom, Jennifer. She has 2 kids, and she said when she gets stuff at the food bank, it allows her to use the money that she is saving so that she can buy shoes for her children, that she can pay the school, for them to go on a school field trip. She can buy a warm winter jacket. So it's a balancing act for her. Those are very typical stories at food banks.
That can be very difficult. Hearing all of these stories, it really touches your heart and makes you realize the situations that people unexpectedly find themselves in when they just need that little bit of help, even just temporarily, and what the food bank can provide for them.
Absolutely. I was at the Surrey Food Bank 2 weeks ago, and the clients, I talked to lots of clients. So there's 2 young men sitting at a table and the table was strewn with books. Okay. Some old, some new, whatever. Their names were Sahib and Hanur, and I will let them tell their story.
Hi, my name's Sahib. I'm a volunteer at the food bank, but today I'm coming on behalf of our book club, Read the Room. And we do, we're just a book club. We read books, we watch movies. But I also realized that, being a volunteer here, that if people are struggling with food insecurity, they're probably struggling with other sorts of issues that are, getting in the way of jobs and, educational opportunities. So what we do is we collect books, we buy books from the library, bookstores, stuff like that. And we just come and we just give them out for free and just take as many as you want. We see a lot of people smiling. Some people take 10 books. Kids come by, they take books. It's just nice to see, people reading, getting, they might not be able to afford books. They might not have access to them. Maybe the library is far away, things like that.
I'm Harnoor. I'm also a member of the book club. I think this is a great opportunity to give back to the community and try and get other people to read as well.
I think kindness is just about giving to others, right? And not wanting anything in return. It's like we can't change the world, but we can at least change some people's lives. You know, somebody might get inspiration from these books, might get a lifelong hobby of reading. And I think that's all what, you know, kindness is about, just giving back.
For me, kindness is just something, it's easy, something that anyone can do, just helping one person, helping a group of people. Me personally, I was just going to play video games today, but, you know, here I am just giving out books because I have the time, right? And I want to maybe just help people as well, right? It's not that difficult, and I think if I can do it, other people can too, and it might inspire them.
Well, those are just lovely individuals that are helping, you know, feed other parts of a person in need. And I love that thought that it, you know, it's not just about food, it's not just about money, it's nourishment in so many other ways, and recognizing that is such a kindness.
It truly is. Also at the Surrey Food Bank that day, there was a tent outside with coffee and little muffins and things. And it was the Surrey Police Force. They have a volunteer community outreach team.
Okay.
And they're there once a week, and they give out some coffee and any questions that people might have about the police. The kids, of course, the little kids that might be in the lineup are quite enthralled by the police in uniform. But they're doing something good in the community as well.
And it is tough, and the Read the Room, great name, by the way, for a book club. But they were sort of, you know, mentioning it's, you know, it's tough out there right now. And do you think, as we're sort of in this, you know, we're in this cycle where we hear a lot of negative things about the economy, about the environment. We hear it from the states, and politically, it can look a little dire. How does that sort of change the way people connect and the way people extend kindness to each other?
I think it's more understood that kindness is an essential component of humanity, and I think when you see people at food banks or having made the tough decision to go to a food bank, that they recognize that people who make donations to food banks are being very kind. They're sharing their good fortune.
All right, we've got a call that's come in from Umad in Vancouver. Hi there.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning or good afternoon. What are your thoughts on today's topic about kindness and our Make the Season Kind event next week?
First of all, thank you for CBC News for raising, you know, those kind of fundraising program. It's really helpful. Second, I am a father who use the food bank weekly. I go to the food bank every week to get some stuff for support my family, but I got one suggestion for this season, please.
Okay.
So, you know, if you distribute some gift card for family, maybe it's helpful for this season, especially it's a gift season, it's a winter break, it's a Christmas season. So, for example, instead of some bunch of fruit, maybe I prefer to buy some new clothes for my kids, you know, or any stuff that I wanted to buy a gift for my kids for Christmas. I mean, if you're gonna maybe one time a year, especially this season, if you distribute some gift card, it will really helpful actually for those kind of family who has a kid or anyone else. So yeah, that's my suggestion.
Well, thank you very much for that, and appreciate the feedback, not the food bank, but I do appreciate the food bank as well. We have an email that's come in from Elizabeth, and it says, "Good afternoon. When my father passed away in 2022, his final request was that in lieu of flowers, he asked people to do a random act of kindness. Donate to the food bank, your local animal shelter, help a random person, do a random act of kindness, do something kind. He could often be, well, rather curmudgeonly, but he did kind things behind the scenes, like helping someone with vet bills, helping someone in need, etc. 2 days after he died, my family and I went to High's Steakhouse in Vancouver. When we went to pay our bill, we were told that a random person had paid for our dinner. It still brings me to tears thinking of it today. Not only a kind gesture, but I took it as a sign from my father that he was still watching over us. It brought so much peace. So wherever you are, kind stranger, thank you." And that was from Elizabeth. Oh, It's these stories that you hear, and you realize how much a simple act can resonate with a person for years and for years. And I would assume, Elizabeth, like her father, she will go on to do these acts of kindness, and we have that ripple effect.
Exactly. She knows firsthand how it feels.
Yeah. I would love to hear a few more calls on this. If you do have a kind story that you want to share with us, what kindness means to you, you can call 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also email us, bctoday@cbc.ca. And as we mentioned, the food bank has been a staple for us here at CBC for decades. What are some of the changes and growth that you've really noticed over the years?
Yeah, I think most particularly, I would say in the last 10 or 15 years when food insecurity has just grown exponentially. I think that's where I've noticed the differences in the way the food banks are operating. They're much, they have more volunteers and a few more staff members. They're all very careful about how much money they spend on their structure or their infrastructure. But also that the move away from having people or wanting people to donate actual food products like cans of soup and things like that, and asking for money so that they can present much healthier food overall. That's the biggest change, I think. Having arrangements with farmers in the Fraser Valley and other parts of British Columbia for surplus food. So when you go to a food bank now on a distribution day, when I have the privilege of doing that, you see lots of fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. I know even at the Richmond Food Bank, a couple of weeks ago, I was there with Gloria Makarenko, and one of the volunteers was talking about different kinds of vegetables that some people that are from different countries didn't know what they were and didn't know what to do with them. So they would have little recipes, and so they've just are much more. They're paying much more attention to detail. Because they have to, and to be really, really efficient.
And sort of what kind of difference has this, does this fundraiser mean, to the people who use the food banks? And when somebody who listens to us donates, what support are they providing?
The money, I think there's a ratio of 1 to 3. For every dollar that you give, the food bank can purchase $3 worth of food.
Right, okay.
So the money does make a big difference. As I said earlier, our audience is just so incredibly generous, and I think that there are other fundraisers and there are other people doing really good things to support food banks all over British Columbia, and I think our fundraiser is one of the larger ones, if not the largest, but I think that every little bit matters. I think that's the message.
I think we've got time for one more call from Sue in White Rock. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm talking, this is a long time ago, but my dearest friend, we had the birthdays together, and we went to some restaurant. It wasn't an expensive one, but anyway. And so all of a sudden she started to tell me about her son had become addicted to drugs.
Oh.
And she had beat alcohol and drugs like 40 years before that. And I don't have anything to do with that stuff. But anyway, we sobbed our hearts out the whole meal. We couldn't eat for crying, the two of us.
Yeah.
And it was sort of dark in there, and thank God there was music on, and I didn't think anyone could see us. So we went to leave. We sort of pulled ourselves together, and these two chaps came over. It looked like a dad and a son, like a grandpa type of dad. And I think they were farmers, the way they were dressed, but they were immaculate. And they came over and pulled our chairs out and helped us with our coats.
Oh.
And I'll never forget that. It felt like someone cared about us, total strangers, and it just made everything okay.
Oh, Sue.
It helped so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and what a wonderful way to end this segment. But it's those simple gestures. People may not even recognize how much of an impact that they can have. And I hope we have a lot of those gestures and so much impact on the 5th when it is Make the Season Kind. Can't wait for all the programming. This is Anne Penman. She is a network producer here at CBC British Columbia. She also organizes our annual Make the Season Kind programming. So mark your calendars for Friday, the December 5th. That's when CBC will put out a special day of programming in support of food banks. Once again, the campaign is called Make the Season Kind. And our Make the Season Kind programming on December 5th will have lots of musicians treating us to some pretty great music. Over on the island, audiences got to bask in the sounds of Juno award-winning duo Blue Moon Marquee as they performed live on CBC in Duncan. We spoke to the duo, Jasmine Collette and A.W. Cardinal.
Both Al and I grew up in Alberta. We were farm kids in central Alberta. And we knew each other in the music scene there. We both played in punk and metal bands in our youth. And we were running in the same circles. And then we didn't see each other for about a decade. We both went and lived in different parts of the world.
We were both influenced by older blues, and I think coming from a punk background, I always wanted to know where the music came from. Who was living in New York and living in Montreal, you get to see a lot of the greatest blues and jazz musicians feet from you, you know, and seeing that live and feeling that rhythm is something that has gotten into me. I guess it starts at the rhythm, really, you know, the rhythm of swing and blues.
One year, we drove from Calgary to Inuvik in February. In February, gotta add that on there. And we bought a Ford Focus wagon, and we packed that thing. I mean, poor Al couldn't even sit up straight. And we had the bass and the drums and all our stuff, all our living possessions.
Everything we own.
And we drove up there, and we did like a 23-date tour, and we played all over the Arctic. Having venues, accessible venues for especially up-and-coming artists, but established artists as well, in the communities is just, it's so important. And I really hope also that there be more all-ages venues, because I think now more than ever, kids need to see human beings playing instruments of wood and string, and so they can see visually that music does not come from a computer.
And of course, the Make the Season Kind donation site is open 24/7 through to the end of December. Go to cbc.ca/kindbc, where you can find the Donate Now button. There's a drop-down menu so you can direct your donation to any of the 111 food banks around the province. Once again, cbc.ca/kindbc, and click on the Donate Now button. You'll receive your tax receipt within a few hours. You can also donate on your phone by texting KIND to 2022. And that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us.